Oh, sure. Hello, everybody. We're glad you're
Hello.
here. Hi, Andrea.
Hello. Hello.
I see that there's Nelson, and I think your name is Ritvik. Shayla, if you guys would please come on camera. That's one of the requirements for our event today. If you're not able to come on camera, we're going to ask you to join us at another time. Thank you so much. Hi, Shaylin.
Hi,
Shayla. Shayla.
Shayla. Yeah. Hi,
Hi,
Is it
Nelson.
Sheila or Shayla?
Shayla.
Shayla.
Yes.
Hi, Nelson. I think I remember you from our Juneteenth event.
Yeah, I that was a really good Juneteenth, yeah. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
yeah,
How's it going?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm calling in from Oakland. So, yeah,
Okay.
I'm in California this morning,
Yeah,
yeah.
I recognize that from the last time. So thank you for joining us. And Shayla, I believe you are new, aren't you? I don't remember seeing you
Yeah,
before.
I'm brand new. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Glad you're here. So we're going to be getting started in a few minutes, but I think what I'm going to go and do, because we do have a full agenda, I think I'm actually going to go ahead and get started. If folks come in later, then they're welcome to come in later. Yeah, so my name is well, there's another person. I think I see I don't want to say your name incorrectly. I think it's Manuel Eglin. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, do you mind coming on camera, please? Okay, there you are. Oh my gosh, I know you from Move On. Welcome. I've seen your name in so many events. I am Evelyn, and I am the organizer, founder of this event. Yeah, fantastic. The Anti-Racist Conversations Group. I won't go into the history of when we were founded, but I might talk about that later on. But I want to get the event started today because I'm really anxious for this awesome opportunity for us to discuss this fantastic book. But before we do that, I want to give you just a few guidelines um, that's going to help us continue. Like I was trying to say earlier, my name is Evelyn. I am the founder organizer of this group. Today's event is scheduled for 1 hour and 30 minutes max, as I have another meeting after this one I must attend. It's also about immigration. So, but I want us to just really respect each other today, and I think we'll do that. And I'm going to ask you guys to remain on mute unless you are speaking, and please do not share any links in the chat at all. And because we are community, I believe that if we see each other in community, it's going to be better. So I'm going to ask everyone to stay on camera, if you don't mind. And out of respect for the event today, whatever your comments are, because I know that my friend Melissa has totally prepared for this one, we're going to leave certain names, oppositional names, out of our meeting today. Our meeting today is about the book. It's not about people who are doing things against immigration. So we're not bringing in anyone's names, even though we might feel that way. That's not what the purpose of the meeting is today. We want you to be curious and listen to understand and then share your comments, because I think conversation is much about listening as it is about talking. So we're going to really listen to each other and, I'm gonna think, oh my gosh, I didn't know, I didn't even think about that. I didn't see that in the book. So we're going to share all these wonderful bits of information and learn from each other. We're going to show respect also and suspend judgment. If I have something to say about my feelings, or maybe Andre has something to say about her feelings, I should not knock that down because I don't know what her feelings were. I don't know why she felt that way. And we're going to respect that and not even do any kind of judging. We're going to actively listen without interruption, crosstalk, or criticism. And I think one of the most important things we can do is be authentic, really be ourselves. Because I know what my experiences are as an educator who taught students from these countries, like El Salvador and other countries too. I know what that feels like based on what they told me. So I'm going to be authentic in what I share with you today. And let's be purposeful and to the point. And what by that I mean, if we're talking about this book, there's no reason I'm going to repeat myself here. There's no reason for us to bring in the opposition. It's about the book, and it's a great story. And then we're going to be also conscious, like I'm doing a lot of talking right now because I have to, because I'm introducing this meeting. But everyone should not use like 5 minutes and talk about maybe one point. We're just going to be aware of sharing the airspace and airtime with everybody else. So that was a lot of information. Hope it didn't sound too negative. I just felt like we needed to get through that part so I don't have to repeat it later on. So I'm going to calm down a little bit here and just introduce to you my friend Melissa. Melissa and I have known each other. I've forgotten now, Melissa, maybe 4 years. I don't
Yeah,
know. It's,
I
it's
think
been a
so.
while. It's been an awesome trip, an awesome journey. So here's a bit about Melissa. I think you guys might have already seen it when I sent out the newsletter with her bio in it. But anyway, she's originally from the Midwest. Melissa is a nonfiction writer who was drawn to the American Southwest. Yay, because I'm also from the Southwest. As we say in the Southwest, well, bless your heart. Bless your heart. Yeah. So anyway, um, and she never left. She came to the Southwest and she's never left. She earned her MFA from Queen's University in Charlotte and has a bachelor's in journalism. Her diverse career has included everything from news writing and event planning to developing and implementing marketing communication strategies for mission driven nonprofits. Melissa's facilitation skills help bring people together to build community. I know this firsthand. In her free time, she plays with words, love that, in hopes of making sense of her surroundings. Her work can be found at HuffPost, The Belladonna, Burning Woods Literary Journal, Minerva's Rising, and more. Excerpts from her memoir in progress received accolades from South Carolina Writers Association and have been published in a grief anthology. It is my pleasure. This has been long, long coming. I promise you, I can't wait to introduce to you my friend Melissa Fast. It's yours,
Ah,
Melissa. Take it away.
thank you. Well, I don't know if I can live up to all that, but I do have to say I have another publishing credit that I'm super excited about. It's today. I'm in the New York Times. I'm so excited. So yeah, it's under the Tiny Love Stories. So yeah. But anyway, I just want to thank everybody for coming. Miss Evelyn has been very near and dear to my heart, and we haven't been working together nearly as much lately as we have been in the past. But I cannot say enough positive things about her either. We originally met through this group. Another friend of mine who I'd been organizing with had shared information about this group, and it was probably a year or so after the George Floyd murder. I think when a lot of us were just thinking, this is enough, you know. And for me personally, it was um, it was a big tipping point for me, and a time really to check my own privilege and use that opportunity to learn more and explore more and build community with other people who were also questioning. So I can't thank Miss Evelyn enough and the other organizers of art to bring this community to us. So thank you all for coming. Um, I had really struggled at first on whether or not I wanted to do kind of a little presentation first or just open it up. And I really kind of wanted to just keep everything very, very simple and just to be able to have a conversation. But before we do that, I always kind of like to know a little bit about everybody. And so I like to have a little icebreaker. So the icebreaker now is, and we can just take turns, or I'll call on Miss Evelyn first, and then she can call on somebody, and then we'll wrap it up there. So nobody has to worry about like, oh no, am I next? So the question is, uh, if you had to leave your house suddenly and you only had one item that you could bring, can't be your phone or computer. We're going to give you those as, freebies. But if you could only take one item or one thing from your home, what would that be? And Miss Evelyn, you start us off.
Okay, I think I would take my bag of items that I had pre-packed earlier because I was anticipating something was going on. Okay, so I have one bag, Melissa, but there are tons of things in that bag that I kept my bag packed, okay? Because I'm thinking my neighbor across the street, something was going on over there. This is totally hypothetical. And I'm thinking maybe I should do the same because it looks like they're just really getting ready to take off. So yeah, I would take my bag.
Okay.
Yeah. And I will call on Nelson. And then Nelson, if you would please take it away from there.
Yes. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Nelson Tam. I'm calling in from the San Francisco East Bay in Oakland, California. I am currently political organizer, so I'm on the Children's Caucus of the California Democratic Party, and I serve on a national committee for the DCCC, which is the official Democratic Party committee that flips congressional seats. So we're really busy right now. We have, I think some people may have caught this in the news that we have a major proposition that just suddenly came out of nowhere to redistrict the state, especially in the northern portions north of Sacramento. And we have to turn out about
All
three or
right,
four million.
Nelson, what would you bring? What would you take? Sorry.
Uh, yeah, it would be my family albums, right? Those are
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
so okay, so if Mindwell would like to share, if I could hand it off to Mindwell.
Hi, I'm calling in from Iowa, uh, and keeping it short and sweet. Y'all are part of my new friend group, recently retired in January into chaos, right? Didn't plan to retire very long before I did. And I am I'm stymied about what I would bring. I'm like a magnifying glass or my art stuff. I don't know that I have albums of pictures in one spot I could just grab. It's like if the tornado comes, I'm gone. I don't have any stuff. That's where I am.
I have to ask, why a magnifying glass?
Because I feel like, I'll lose my glasses and I'm at that age where I can
Oh,
never
okay.
see anything. And even with my glasses, I want a magnifying glass to see the little things.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks. I thought maybe you'd be starting fires or something.
I think I'll put that in my bag too.
It would be
Yeah.
useful for starting fires if I needed to
Okay.
keep myself warm, right?
All righty. All right. Is it Andrea or Andrea? You're on mute.
Okay, there I am. Hi.
Yes.
I am I came to this group with Evelyn. I am part of her Indivisible group. I am calling in from work today. I'm Oak Park, I'm a sonographer. Evelyn, a quick question. If I have to go, if I get a patient, would it be better for me to just sign off altogether, or is it okay if I go off camera and keep my earbuds in?
Off camera's great.
Okay, cool. So if my first thought, if I had to go, if my purse is not a given to me, because my purse is kind of like a Mary Poppins, jack of all trades. I've got 3 kids and I like to know where all my things are. So if it's not my purse, then a couple years ago, I got really organized and bought a fireproof box that has all of our social security cards, all of our birth certificates, death certificates, marriage certificates, all of that paperwork. Yes, you can replace it, but it's not easy. So I have it all in folders and I would 100% grab that.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Shayla.
Hello, I'm calling from Fort Worth, Texas. The first thing I would grab, my kids are grown out of the house, so I wouldn't worry about them. So I would grab my little dogs. We would head on out. So that's it.
All right. Gloria.
Hi. I would grab essential documents for identity and money.
All right. Thank you. Where are you calling from, Gloria?
West of Chicago, DeKalb, Illinois.
All righty. And Chris.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. I'm from Chicago area, in particular Oak Park. Let's see. So already have a go bag set up anyway, passports, cash, credit cards. a few choice weapons. They will go unnamed, but that just kind of goes with the theme, I think, having a go bag prepared. And in real time, then what wouldn't be prepared is grabbing the dog. And obviously phone, because the phone is a conduit to all of our things that are backed up. Personal, professional documents also included in those would be pictures where they're stuffed into the cloud. So,
All right. Well, thanks.
Okay, can I just say something for Chris and Gloria? We're asking everyone to be on camera today, guys, because we are in community. And I know it's typical that we're behind the scenes in most Zooms, but for today's, because we're having a discussion openly, that you guys join us openly. And if you're unable
oh,
to do
you
that, we'll ask you to join us another time.
okay? Yeah, so I'm not able to do that because I'm not hooked up to a camera right now because this the setup I'm at and where I'm at right now. So that's cool. Going forward, absolutely understood the criteria.
Okay.
All right. And I think I was just realizing I might be woefully underprepared. I don't have a bag, but the only thing I would think of, I'm kind of along with Shayla. I think I would take my pup, who is no longer really a pup. She's been with me for 10 years now, and she's seen me through a lot. So I would have to make sure that I took her with me. So thanks everybody for sharing just a little bit about yourselves. I really appreciate it. I think that also helps with our community building. And before we start, I really just want this to be an open conversation. If you want to like raise your virtual hand, or there aren't many of us on the call today, so you can even just do this if you have something to say. But we'll just go ahead and kick it off. And you probably all saw the list of questions that were sent out when you signed up via Mobilize. But I'm just going to really go through those questions and see where our conversation takes us. So I want to start off by, the first question. We all know that, and we're only going to discuss about the first half of the book through about chapter 6. So, don't feel bad if you haven't gotten that far or haven't gotten any further than that. But we all know, at least if you've at least looked at the book, that you know that the book is told from a 9-year-old boy's perspective. And as you started reading this book and started thinking about a 9-year-old boy leaving his home, everything that he had never ever known, um, told from his perspective throughout, how did your views about immigration or this issue in general evolve and change? Anybody? Yeah, Shayla, please.
Um, for me, it was extremely emotional. I I mean, we have, immigration, Fort Worth isn't right next to the border, but it's a major topic here, obviously. But um, we've always been big advocates for our immigrants that are, we just had a lot here recently in our own yard, helping with some, with our construction crew that did work on our house. The guy who runs the company, he had several here that were from different countries, and we actually had like one of the trucks and that they were trying to, they were a little concerned about, and so it was a matter of telling them, hey, if the guys are worried, they can come in the house. Just let them know, just come on in, and not to be worried. But they're grown, that's a grown man, and they're scared. And reading about a 9-year-old boy, and it's been a long, like, my kids are grown, my kids are, in their mid-20s, and reading a perspective from a 9-year-old boy, and I'm trying to go back to when my kids or my son was 9, and I'm just like, I just can't even imagine. Like, it made me so emotional. And I don't get that emotional very often. But I just couldn't fathom what this young little guy went through. And I could see how the you know, how the parents and the grandparents and the family were trying to prepare him by saying, you know, this trip, it's exciting, you know, we're so excited for you, you know, trying to get him kind of pumped up for this adventure. And it just, I just was like blown away. And I just, all I kept thinking and all I kept telling my husband, you know, as I was reading it, because I just started reading it 2 days ago, because I just found this group. And I just couldn't stop talking about it to him. And I was like, I just wish everyone could read this book. Like it would change. I really feel like it would change so many minds, like to love your child so much that you would actually send them out on their own through all of this, because you want a better life for them and you want them out of such a dangerous situation. You know, it's one thing to think of a grown man crossing through this, but to like send your child on their own, it just is a totally different perspective. That's my
Yeah.
dog.
Yeah. I can totally relate to Shayla with what you were saying in terms of um he's 9 years old and thinking about your own son, you know, when they were 9 years old. And that is exactly what I found myself thinking. It was like, oh my gosh, my son was obsessing over Pokemon at 9 years old and you know, complaining that he had to eat canned pears at a camp. You know, I mean, just such trivial things. And and I too also truly believe it's like if we could make this required reading across, like just across the country, what would that do? How would that help people at least see for a moment a different perspective? So yeah, thank you for sharing. Anybody else? Yeah, Miss Evelyn.
Yeah, it was really raw for me. And the reason I say that is because I'm an educator from Texas. And Javier could have been my student. And I just
Mhm.
remember I had only one of all my teaching in Texas, I only had one student from El Salvador. His name was Francisco. Every single day. I hope I can get through this one.
We can wait. I've heard about Francisco, so you've got to share.
That wasn't supposed to happen. Ah,
It's okay. It's a safe
come back.
space.
I'll speak later. Can't do
Okay.
it.
All right. We'll come back to you. Anybody else? Andrea, Mindwell, Gloria, please. Yeah, please.
I was just, you
oh,
know,
sorry.
pure emotion. I was going to say it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah. Gloria, please.
I just found out about the group and just ordered the book, but this morning I did a presentation on this topic. It's a 5-minute thing. And it included stories such as stories of people that took in refugees when they were separated from their parents. And at the end, this grown man said, I was nearly in tears listening to that story. There was a 4-year-old who had a red ribbon tied around her ankle, and her grandmother, who had raised her for those 4 years, she was pulled out of her arms and taken. And the grandmother told her that ribbon is going to be how she's going to find her. And it may have been a couple of years later, they didn't say in the video, but it was really moving to the people. And as you say, if everyone would know what's going on, you know, would really know, as if you're there, as if someone's telling you the story. Anyone with any kind of a heart or soul would certainly be moved by it. So I'm just coming at the story from other stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks.
Would you like to try again, Miss Evelyn, or wait?
I'm gonna wait.
Okay.
Give me a few
Alrighty.
minutes. Yeah.
That's okay. Just chime in when you're ready. And I think, you know, as small as our group is, you know, I think we can you know, be pretty informal about hopping in on a conversation. So don't feel like that you have to wait. Um, so kind of piggybacking along, we know what we got a glimpse at seeing this through a 9-year-old's perspective. But as you start thinking about this, and how did how did you feel when you learned that his family was going to send him unaccompanied with just kind of a group of strangers? Is that a hand up, Andrea or Andrea?
No, sorry, I had to put a
No,
charger on my phone.
that's
But it just, as a mother, it it just made me really, my heart just broke for the parents to have to make a decision like that. It's hard for me to be away from my kids for a day, let alone make a decision to, do I want to stay with them or do I want them to be safe? And
yeah,
it just, yeah, it, yeah, it, it breaks your heart. It breaks your heart on so many levels.
yeah,
So, and you just like having to sit with that for a little bit. Yeah, it's hard.
yeah. I think anybody who and it doesn't necessarily take a parent to understand that pull toward a child, but anytime you've been a caregiver of anybody, you lovely, that'll be all. Hey, sorry, my dog. um you kind of get this, you suddenly understand the desperation that must be in the environment if the risks that were there, and his parents were already in the United States, so they knew the risk. They knew um the the things that could happen along the way, and to find that that risk is still worth it really kind of illuminated for me um, the desperation that must have already been there, because I think it's easy for us, easy for people to make assumptions that, oh, it's not that bad kind of thing. But it's like when you really start digging in, it's like, would you send your child? We wouldn't send our children to somebody's house that we didn't know, and now we're going to send them across multiple countries and hope that it's okay, you know.
I think the word that captured my mind was love, though.
Yes,
They loved him so
yes,
much that they wanted better for him.
yes,
And so sometimes love, I think for the most part, love should override a lot of stuff or the majority of stuff that we deal with. And so when I thought about this and then understanding the culture of the people somewhat, um, I feel like they must have been thinking that I love him and the people are gonna love him like I do. So I'm gonna
mhm,
trust that love to those people,
yeah,
and I'll go back to my story now because this mother, I don't remember her name, but my student's name, this was fourth grade, was Francisco, and every single day she walked him to class. Every single day before school was over, she was at my door to pick him up. And now I think about, I wonder if it was all about that. She was new to Austin, and did she not trust us with her son? Or was her fear so deep that she didn't know if he would make it home by himself from the school building? I don't know. But I admire how she raised him and how much love she shared, not just for her student, I mean, her child, but she showed me what that love looked like for her child. And
yeah,
so I was prepared to embrace him more and more every single day as a fourth grader.
yeah.
Yeah, that's my take on it. That's all I can say right now.
That's okay. Thank you. Thank you. And I too, that was one of the things when I was taking notes about love. It was very apparent. They were trying to make a better life for their whole family. And from the time that he was 3 years old, when his father left, to when he then left, he was surrounded in this love, and that's a very powerful thing. Somebody else, please. I don't want to monopolize the conversation. Yeah, Shayla.
I found myself like having to, I don't know what the word is, but I found myself being a little judgy, and I had to kind of smack myself, I guess, because I was a super helicopter parent. Okay. Like I was, you know, very overprotective of my kids when they were growing up. And so in the beginning of the story, and not knowing the background of, you know, learning that the dad left when he was a baby, and then the mom left 4 years prior to Javier leaving. And I found myself having thoughts of like, you know, why hasn't he, you know, why didn't they take him with, you know, why, like all these questions. And then I just felt so awful when I, you know, suddenly was realizing that, you know, money, like, you know, there were all these different factors, you know, either the coyote was wanting more, the price was going up, or, you know, there were just all these different factors. And I was like, why was I thinking like this? Like, I really needed to like check myself. And I thought that was really, I mean, it was a really good exercise for me, because here I thought, you know, I didn't think I would have those thoughts, like, you know, and it upset me that I did, first of all. But it was it was good that I recognized that, and realized, you know, hey, you know, you don't know what's happening kind of behind the scenes and all that. So and I remember just kind of thinking through the whole thing is like, oh my gosh, I hope these people that he ends up with love him, because he just, I was just like, please, please love him. Please take care of him. Please, please, please. That's all I kept thinking about. But yeah, that's kind of,
Yeah.
and I had.
Shayla, thank you for sharing that. And I think that, and I it's good that you worked through that squirm, you know, because I think that those are the times that if there's hope with any of us, and in a bigger society, we all need those moments, you know, of when we question our previous beliefs in order to evolve, you know, and in order to be empathetic. So thank you for sharing that. And it's important, and I appreciate it. Anybody else? Yeah, please. Is it Mindwell or Mindwell?
Mindwell.
Oh, Mindwell.
I was just gonna piggyback on that about how it can be a book. It doesn't have to be a person that you know, but some way to open your eyes to what it's like to be in someone else's shoes. And that's what's so amazing about this book. We're looking at the world from the behind the eyes of a 9-year-old, and how, well, how devastating that's what a good life requires, that someone has to navigate without their parents even being in the same country.
Mhm.
And I know I haven't gotten far enough to know if it's happy or sad at the end, but I feel that it's just, you know, you want to say, why would you ever leave your child? But you know, it had to have been bad for them to feel like they had to leave. I agree. It's really hard to imagine that what that parent's decision was or how they made it.
Yeah. And as you get further into the book, you realize kind of what Shayla was saying, the expense of it all. You know, I mean, just the dollars and cents of it all. And it's like how long it must take to save to do that for each person. So yeah, it's a complicated thing. Anybody else before I pose another question?
Yeah, I think also the words that come to my mind is just the hope that that the family had. And if we understand if we don't understand anything about Latin American culture, is that they're super resilient because
Yeah.
they've always had to be. You know, life hasn't always been easy for a large majority of them. So just despite the hardship, I don't even know if that was really part of their overall thought process
Mhm.
because they had made it, right?
Mhm.
And so there was no way they could even have the conversation with him long term that he couldn't make it.
Yeah.
And that's part of that resilience. That's part of that hope. And
Yeah.
I think that we would do well to embrace those words ourselves today because we're all in this together.
Yeah. Yeah. Most definitely. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna skip ahead to a question. Um, what what was it something that surprised or shocked you when reading as you were reading the book, this first half? For me, I'm just gonna one of the things that surprised me the most was how Javier was nervous to use indoor plumbing. Um, when they were crossing and they were staying in a motel room, and it was just another moment, kind of like what Shayla was talking about, you know, boom, I had to check my privilege here real quick. And being in a situation where he couldn't ask his family, but I just thought it was beautiful how and I've just forgotten her name, but was it Carla? The woman who had the little girl who kind of, you know, took him under her wing. And
Patty,
I'm sorry.
Patty,
Yeah, yeah.
Patty.
Um so for me, that was like a real illuminating moment that from there on out, it was much easier to question my beliefs because that kind of just blew it all apart for me and just really opened it up. Anybody else?
I think for me, it was just the idea of how much, even as a 9-year old, that he didn't understand a lot, didn't understand a lot of what he was having to deal with. He's 9 years old. But the thing of it is, whatever you experience, you don't forget it. Because this was not an easy, you know, fly by the night kind of experience. It's something that he will never forget, ever. But I look at the fact that he wrote this book, though.
Yeah.
And so when I was thinking about an answer for that particular question, I went to a statement that was made a long time ago by Maya Angelou, and she says, "You are the sum total of everything you've ever experienced, eaten, smelled, been told, forgot. It's all there. Everything influences each of us, and because of that." She says, I try to make sure that my experiences are positive. Maybe that wasn't Javier's experience being overall positive, as we already know, but he is the sum total, and that's what he's sharing with us.
Yeah.
Every experience that he, you know, the outdoor, the plumbing and all that stuff. Well, he saw that. And I'm thinking he's thinking about home and what he didn't have and what he has now, what he has experienced now. It's all brought him to the man that he is today, though.
Yes.
This person that we look up to with a really, for me, a very high level of respect. I mean, how could someone who's experienced something like that write this book?
Yeah.
It's something to think about. So the memory of a child is, I find it quite fascinating because their minds are open, their brains are not cluttered with stuff, but they remember. It's like the good, the bad, the ugly, and you decide what are you going to do with it. Which one of those components do you really want to focus on, even though those other ones are going to remain with you? Where do I go from here?
Hmm. Yeah. Anybody else, please chime in.
Yeah, something that stood out to me was when the Mexican police had detained them, and they had their machine guns, and they had them get down on their knees and hands behind their head, and they were making them empty their pockets, and he was absolutely terrified. And they kept saying, you know, give me your money, give me your money. It's not enough. It's not enough. And then they were having them take off their socks, and that somebody had a few more bits of money that fell out. And then they said it's still not enough, and they had them put their face down in the dirt, and he mentioned having the dirt and the sand in his mouth, and they still said it's not enough, and they were pointing the guns at him. And he knew that whole time that he had that money hidden in his clothes, and he still never gave up his money. And I just kept thinking, wow, like that's, I mean, I was sitting there thinking, if that was me, I would have been just ripping that out and, here, take it all, but like this brave little guy, like his grandfather said, don't let anyone know where that's at. Like, this is such a good hiding spot. It's not tucked in the socks. It's not, wherever those other people had theirs. And he just obeyed his grandfather and stuck to his little, guns and bravery, and did not give it up. And I just was like, oh my gosh, he's so brave. Like,
Yeah.
it blew me away.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that one, because that was on page 139. And if you guys can humor me, because the other thing that popped out about that was how he had listened to his grandfather, but he had also was praying. And that was one of the things that I know that this isn't what this discussion is about, but regardless of your faith practices, I just found that very powerful, that throughout he continued to tap into that as well. Let me see. Let me see if I can find. I think this is the passage. Oh, shoot. Hang on. Oh, yeah. So I get, it wasn't on 139. That was another thing. It's 124. If you can bear with me, and I warn you ahead of time, my Spanish is horrible. On top of the asphalt road, it looks like steam is rising. The bus is still parked. Cars wait in traffic behind it. One soldier is still checking papers. We were inside the bus. Now we're standing in front of the guns, big guns hanging from shoulder straps, little guns on belts. The soldiers are wearing boots, black ones, big leather ones. I remember the nuns telling me, during emergencies, you can pray without kneeling. Their guns shine when the sun hits the metal a certain way. Every night since Grandpa left, I've whispered a Padre Nuestro. Lying in a bed, I start, Padre Nuestro, que estás en el cielo. And it was I just thought, and I know the first half of the books is, especially since, we don't know the ending. There's a lot of negative information in there. It's a hard journey. It's a hard read. But those moments where he was leaning in, and all of the people, the six that he started out with, were all leaning in to their faith. And I thought there was honestly kind of a part of me that I thought, man, I wish I could have that kind of faith. But that was really a powerful, one of the powerful moments in the book for me.
Yeah.
Anybody else, please? Gloria, you've been awful quiet. Anything you want to share? You don't have to,
Well,
but
just since I haven't read the book, I haven't even seen it yet.
No, you
But-
can still comment on things that we're talking about. We won't hold that against you.
Yeah. What was it you just said? I had it on my mind and then I lost track.
Just the faith that all
Oh,
of
yeah.
that he
Yeah.
went through. It was that was a powerful moment.
Yeah. I was hoping recently because, well, today I'm planning to do some writing about defending democracy. And I was thinking about, what if I would get taken, maybe that nobody'd notice, that I even wrote anything. But what if? And I felt so angry. I thought, well, I would just have to survive whatever happens. And I was thinking in terms of God, in terms of uh, whatever God would allow, that, maybe I'm just mad enough that fine, go ahead and torture me. But I hate the torture that where they keep you alive so they can keep torturing you.
Yeah.
That maybe is going a little far for me. But I mean, how much do you risk? What do you do? Um, it's just I feel like I have an understanding of what I need to do, and I'm in a couple of groups that are active in helping migrants, and but I want to write about it, and so that's clear. It's just not really clear with all these, the military takeover, where this is going and where I'm going to end up in it. And I
Yeah.
think about it because I used to have dreams when I was growing up that I was on like a stone slab, and evil people were going to sacrifice me, and I just yelled at them and, you know, uh, just had faith. And it was something I always wondered if anything like that would ever happen. But hopefully it won't. But it's happening to millions of people. It's just, there aren't words for it in any language.
Yeah. Faith is an important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add on to that too, I think Melissa, you probably know this story too, but in 2018, when the children were being taken away from families, that big initiative, families belong together. My indivisible group was a major part of that, and so we, so this is August 2025. We started supporting, partnering with an entity that actually takes children in who come over by themselves. So we've been partnering with them for since 2018. And the thing, it's amazing how the kids really, when they come over, they are affected for sure. But the way the entity supports them is amazing. And by that, I mean, they immediately, from what we know, we don't know all the details, they immediately go into asking them, what would you like? What can we get for you? And so that's where we come in, is that we receive a wish list every single year from this entity. We have since 2018. And the things that they want, the number one thing they want is an easel to paint on. They want all the painting. Uh, Everything is bright though, the colors, and they want materials to make bracelets like these. The pretty bracelets, the girls want that. They want the hair, uh, the things that make the hair pretty. And the boys want caps or whatever. And so we try to supply as much of those items as we possibly can. And it's been the biggest joy of my life, because I keep saying those could have been my students. And that, as far as my indivisible group, that's my initiative. I'm going to claim that one like 1,000%, because they're children, and yeah, they're children. So we can make a difference. One thing I know about the Hispanic culture, they do not want you to feel sorry for them. They want you to embrace the culture. And once you're a friend in that community, you are a lifelong friend, unless you choose to walk away or unless you do something that's damaging to them. But for the most part, you are in for life. And that's the way it is with this entity and these children. We're in it for life. I look forward to getting that list every single year and going shopping for those kids and delivering it. We never get to see them, but we know we're making a difference. Andrea, for example, is one of our members, And she and one of her daughters last year wrote notes to the kids in Spanish. That was probably bigger than the gift set that I bought. Because I remember the lady taking the notes, and it was a nice little stack, and she just did that to her chest last year. So we can make a difference. It's going to be nonstop. The parents are going to keep sending their kids over because they know the dangers, and I think we're going to have to be more broadly embracive of accepting and helping however we can.
Yes. Yes, 100%. So I've got two more questions left. One is going to put us on a more positive way to end, but before we get there, I would like to know, we all come at this book and at this space and in this moment that we are on in from different places, and so I guess I would be curious to know, um, what did you learn about migration that you didn't know before, or just really keyed in for you?
I think we hear about migration from the news, and it's very limited. We don't see the ugly part. We don't hear the ugly part. And for me, is that nitty gritty ugly. It's like people are dehumanized. I think I knew that already, but to be able to see it, vividly see it, because I think it's a part of me that I don't want to talk about. I don't want to hear that. I don't want people to be treated that way. But when reality sets in and you see it, yeah. But then on the other side, though, it makes me want to humanize people more in situations like that.
Very much. Yeah, Shayla, please.
One of the things that was a little surprising for me was about the coyotes. I guess I had this image in my head, and I'm sure it is true that the coyotes are just like super ruthless, uncaring, just I don't know. I don't really know what I had in my head exactly, but I know Don Dago, I'm not too sure how to say his name. I was really upset that he kind of ditched them in Guatemala, I think it was. But the other coyotes that kind of took over from there, like on the boat, he was concerned about the women and children getting seasick and continued to give them, the pills to help them with that. And then, stopping the boat to help the guy that was not feeling well. And when he said, we will not stop the boat, but he did. And then, just what we were talking about before with the police in Mexico stopping them, and how he was like, no, these are my people. This is my six. And he didn't help the other three who were not part of his group. He just wanted to focus on his people. I don't know. I just thought that was kind of interesting. It just kind of struck me like, these are my people. I'm going to make sure they get, I don't know if I don't know much about it. Like, do they only get paid when they get their people to where they're supposed to go? Or
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of gathered there was a payment up front, and then more payments along the way, but yeah, I'm not sure.
But that whole dynamic of like, I'm protecting them, don't come out of this motel room. I don't want anybody to, do not talk to anybody, like just making sure that they're kept safe until they get to where they're going just really surprised me, because I would think, especially like with Javier, his grandpa or whoever it was, if it was his parents or whoever, paid his all up front. And I was like, well, what's stopping them from just ditching the kid? you know, like, oh, we got our money. We don't really care about this little boy. That's kind of, I was really worried about that. So that whole dynamic just really kind of surprised me. But
Yeah. I think for me too, there was kind of along Miss Evelyn's point about what we hear in the media is so dehumanizing, but the book, and I think especially told through a 9-year-old's perspective, was so opposite of that, and it did really tune in on um, the personal relationships, and and again, like I had said earlier, it made me check my own privilege in thinking about you're willing to do you're willing to take these risks because of what's on the other end, and they're big risks, but all along the way I hadn't thought about um the people that gathered around Javier and making those. I hadn't thought about ever making connections with people along the way. And, I've spent, throughout the book and even now, I'm like, gosh, you just want them, you spend all of this, even though it's like this really truncated amount of time, it must feel like a lifetime during the process. And then to think you're never going to see these people again, or and they've taken you under their wing. You are as an adult now thankful that they did that, because that showed their humanity in all of this. And I think that that was the thing for me that I learned the most, that um in all of this there are people, um people that we know, people that it's real people. It's not a media news blip. And it to me that was very helpful and educational.
Yeah, a lot of it made me reflect on my childhood growing up, though. Also, just how and Melissa, you might have heard this before too, but growing up in the countryside of Texas, in a little, we had a little farm area, and but the majority of the folks that were around us were not family, but they were family, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
And I kind of see this Javier's experience as that. He didn't know who they were. But if you understand the culture, they were already family, coming
Right.
from different parts of the world of that area.
Yeah.
Well, that was my childhood too. These folks are coming from different parts of our little neighborhood, big neighborhood in the country. And what I remember is this: if there was ever a need that my family had, the neighbors that were not blood for us met those needs, and
Yeah.
just the opposite. Because when you live in the country and you have a farm, if you have the eggs, then Melissa, if you need eggs, there's nothing reciprocal about it either. If you need something from the garden, nothing reciprocal about it. That to me is what I was trying to say earlier about community and the love that people have for each other. And that's what I gather from this, is that this is a child, and they actually humanized him along the way. They didn't have to do that. But that's what you're talking about when you say, I understand what you say when they're people. And I want to say these are people that care about
Yeah.
people. And
Yeah.
that's the kind of people we are called to be. Whenever I read something like this, I'm thinking, okay, so am I reading it just to read it? Or what's the message for me? The message for me today is to do more of what I just read about. That's
Yes.
the message for me. And how can I do it? All I have to do is go outside and interact with my community, interact with my neighborhood. The kids are there, the families are there.
Yeah.
It's up to me to make that difference.
Yeah.
Me, one solo here, but it's
Yeah.
up to us collectively, though. You were talking about earlier, Melissa, you wish that I wanted to say the whole nation needs to read this, because I think we
Yeah.
do. Because we can have these conversations here, and I'm hoping we're going to be messengers after this meeting today and tell our neighbors, our cousins, our doctors, and whomever, this is where we need to hang out.
Yeah.
This is how we need to be, because we understand this is not going away. It's up to each one of us to make a difference. And you know what? We have the power to do that. If we dare have communication, if we dare take this wonderful book study outside this Zoom meeting.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. And uh this like veers a little bit, but um there was a time that I wasn't feeling very hopeful. And I was in a Zoom meeting with Miss Evelyn, and she shared the sharing of resources when she was a kid, and that extended family, that chosen family. And I have since taken that message to heart. And because in everything that feels so powerless about what's going on in the world or in our country, I can be kind to others. If somebody um, needs needs something that I can provide, then I can do that. Um, and I think that that is so key, because we, like Miss Evelyn was saying, we do have the power. We can, um, just helping other people helps us, and that is a very big thing, and it can never be understated. Um, I think for, I guess, the remaining time we have, I'm going to pose this last question, and we kind of segue into this. But we will share some actual links and resources when we're through with the discussion. But what can you do today and tomorrow and next week to help dispel some of the myths about immigration?
I used to think that you would need to say, this is not true and this is true. And just as you were talking, I was thinking about another way to do that is just to speak the truth. I was doing these 5-minute segments in church for the last 5 weeks, focusing on different groups and what they're doing, with the idea that I had to let people that didn't understand hear me, be open to it. And I ended up stating the positives. This is happening to this person, and this group is helping them, and this is what they're doing, and this is what we can do. And even this last one today, mentioning that there are concerns about no funding for resettlement and the banning of refugees coming in. And the person that was in charge of this, it happened to be Global Refuge, an immigrant herself, had said in an interview that she believed that we could ultimately stick to our values that we've had over the decades and continue this work. So it was in a really positive way to give an opening to people that would not hear it, otherwise, kind of give them an opportunity to understand what's going on, the truth of that, and the truth of people that are doing something and what we can do.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Can you state your question again? I lost track there because
Yeah, no, that's okay. What can we do to help dispel myths about migration?
I'm going to have to almost like ditto what Gloria said. We're just going to have to tell the truth. Yeah. It's and encourage people not just to listen to the snippets that's in the media, but I would also say um, we've got to go where the people are. In every area of this country, in our communities, there are people who are from that particular culture, of those particular cultures, what's wrong with talking with people? Start a communication. And with the Hispanic community, it is absolutely, from my perspective, one of the easiest conversations to have. They are so responsive. And like Melissa, you were saying earlier, you were reading from the book and you said my Spanish is not so good. For them, it doesn't really matter if your Spanish is not so good. Try. And that's what I do. I said earlier that I visit this one grocery store, not weekly, but I go in there enough because I know the lady that checks me out, she's the one that I always want to go to because she allows me to practice my Spanish. And my Spanish is broken. But you know what I'm doing when I go there? I'm building a relationship with her. It's more than just me saying, ¿Cómo se dice en español? And then sometimes I will ask her, how do you say that in Spanish? Because I want her to practice her English with me too. So it's a two-way street. But just starting a conversation. And I'll tell you something I did because I had thought about that in conjunction with your question. In my neighborhood, there's a young family right down the street. And so I was getting out of my car the other day, coming from the grocery store, and school was out. And so I'm thinking, my gosh, he looks like he's at least 5 years old. He was on his bike in front of his mother. And so I stopped to have a conversation with her. I mean, I stopped her. She had a younger son. And so she gave me her name. We talked there for a minute, and then he came back. The little boy came back and said, Mom, let's go. I don't want to talk, And so typical. But I stopped to have a conversation with her because she's Hispanic. I'm thinking it's up to me. And I saw her yesterday and we just waved. The relationship is being built because I dared, and I had my groceries in my arm while we were talking, but I dared to stop to build the conversation. She knows my name and I know her name. And the conversation next time is going to be easy because I'm purposely going to say, how was your day today? And I told her, I said, I taught kindergarten for 10 years. He looks like he's in kindergarten. And she said, he is, he's 5. Open door,
Yeah.
open door. We can have those conversations in the grocery store, wherever, but we've got to be the one that's audacious about it though.
Yeah, most definitely. And I will even add, and this happened years ago, well before, um, as I start to think about it, like a long time ago, probably 20 years ago, this conversation was, so it was before we had the political polarization that we have now. Um, but I was at, will never forget this. Um, I'd been invited to a Christmas brunch with a bunch of people I really didn't even know. I mean, one woman was taking me because I was in the midst of like some pretty big grief at the time, and I just needed something different to be celebrating during the holidays.
And yet their connection felt tenuous. Every time she needed to
That person just popped in. Um, but at any rate, we were at this brunch and with all of these people that I did not know. Um, and somebody started making some really disparaging remarks about some immigrants that were in the community. Um, Something typical of, they're taking our jobs or, something that is so stereotypical. And I just called her on it, like, in that moment, and I mean, I would like to say I was gentle about it, but I probably wasn't because I was never invited back, but, and I'm not suggesting, we're mean in our conversations, but I think it's also important, to Gloria's point, we're speaking the truth, and when we hear misinformation, even if it's with our neighbors, to be able to say, that's did you know that XYZ is what's really happening? Or to give them some resources. Would you mind reading this? And then we can have a conversation. I've certainly had in our neighborhood, our next door neighbors do not at all fall in line with my belief system. It could be very easy, I will be honest, to say, I don't want to have anything to do with them. They don't believe like me. they're wrong, they're this, they're this. But I take a pause and every once in a while, now it's not every time we get together, but I'll just ask, hey, do you mind if we talk about this a little bit? And we have back to what Miss Evelyn was saying, we have a conversation, and I'm not naive enough to believe that I'm going to change anybody's mind, but enough of those conversations along the way, um, that gives me a little hope. And if nothing else, I can move forward by thinking I am at least doing the right thing. I'm not, because when there have been moments in my life where I have, when somebody has said something that is just so obnoxiously egregious to me and I don't say something, that leaves me with a really bad feeling for days after that. And I can have hard conversations with people that I don't agree with too, in a kind and loving way. So I think that that's one of the things that, that I'm concentrating on. Anybody else? Yeah, please, mind well.
Well, I'm just going to try to connect some of this because there's two things. That one thing is calling people out, and the other thing is actually trying to interact with the people who are immigrants in our communities, right? So working at a food bank or doing something like that, if you aren't already, that's how I interact with my community. And I probably should do a better job of learning Spanish because I'm pretty bad at going through the numbers with the people at the food bank. I often have to try to communicate with my fingers and we'll do a twice. Like I don't know the whole alphabet. I just know the numbers. They'll help work with me and teach me, but um it's that whole idea of if you keep yourself separate, then you really don't know what it's like to be in their shoes. This book is amazing because it gives me an idea that the backstory may be much more complicated. These people may have come, they may appear to be a family today, but it may have taken years for this family to get here. And knowing that, I think people would be much more tolerant of, different behaviors that they observe. And that's sort of what we do as humans. We notice what's different, right? And we call people out on that too. But I agree with the idea of calling people out when they say things like they're illegals, they have no rights, um, things like that. So apologies for the message machine in the background.
Oh, no worries.
And then one other quick other thought was just that Solito is one memoir, and it's reminding me back in 2007, our community read A Long Way Gone memoir of a boy soldier in Sierra Leone by Ishmael Bia. And it goes through a similar thing of like humanity and what is the capacity of humans to do harm to one another, and then how do we tolerate that, and what's a uh uh what is considered a taboo and what isn't, right? So all of those things, like what is the cultural norm, how is the cultural norm being violated, and what do we stand for? Like maybe we need to expand our view of what humans can do, and how do we reel that in and make it be acceptable.
Yeah. What was that? What was his last name? I've heard of that book, but
It's Beah, um Ishmael, and he ended up coming to America. There's been some controversy, but he was living, in Sierra Leone. He was 12 when um he was taken by the rebels, and he operated on, life without a calendar, but there's documentation in his country that supports his view of it. And I guess there's some other people that are trying to claim that his timeline isn't quite right. But, you know, that's how a memoir is anyway.
Yeah.
So I think we all have to get good with this is what happened to this boy, and this is his telling of it. And that's from their perspective, what happened, whether
Yeah.
we agree with every detail.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Shayla.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just to touch on, you know, what y'all said, I've just, over the past 2 years, I've gotten much more better about being a lot more bold. When I hear things or when people say things to me, our neighborhood doesn't quite agree with, you know, where my husband and I stand on things. Same with a lot of our family. And just being able to come back and say, well, that's not true, you know, and have those things to say to back it up. And one thing that I have been saying that has helped in like creating a really good conversation with them is saying, well, what would you do if you were in that person's shoes or that person's position, or, you know, things like that. And a lot of times they're like, oh, well, I would try to come here legally. You know, I would do it the legal way. Well, what does that look like? You know, just like starting that conversation. And so that's always been kind of a helpful tool sometimes, but
That's a great idea. That's so
I'm
helpful.
sorry. Yeah, go.
That's
Go ahead,
all.
Gloria.
I think we're all
I've-
giving you jazz hands on that, Shayla.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I've been trying to seek out as much as possible a comprehensive, you know, but a good solid list of ways to respond. I'm really looking for that. And these are really helpful.
Good. Well, and that kind of leads us to I'm sorry, Miss Evelyn, do you want to?
Yeah, when Shayla was talking, what I was thinking about is that the people that we're interacting with, those who are making the comments, they're speaking, I believe, a lot of times from a place of fear, rhetorical overload, and just news bombing. That's all they have. Because when you said a few minutes ago, why can't they come over illegally? That's rhetoric. That's blatant rhetoric. That's all they know. So how do we break through the rhetoric? And it goes back, from my perspective, conversation. I would ask them another question. So, can you tell me where you got that information from? I would love to. Could I read it for myself? You know, I would love to hear about that. And if you know you're talking about the legal, do you know someone that I could actually talk with that could help them come over illegal? I mean, legally, come over legally. There's just so much we can put into a conversation to just put it right back on them and say, you know what, you're dead wrong. You're just
definitely.
wrong. Yeah. So I think, yeah, the conversation, we got to have more of those conversations because I believe I'm pretty daring as far as people who say they're one way, and I kind of break through and say, you know what, I don't think you're as tough as you think you are. I don't think you're as mean as you think you are. I want to break through that. And so I start having those conversations with them. And I learned that from my mother a long time ago, even though I didn't understand why she was talking so much. And here I go. Seriously. Yeah, she could break through a conversation and get you to believe stuff that like, and she could calm people down. So I'm thinking we're gonna have to do what you're doing, Shayla. Ask those open-ended questions, but we got to keep them going. Because when I hear that the words are saying, you know, they're coming over illegally, then let's work on that.
Yeah. 2 years ago, my parents were adamant that the migrants were going to take over their home and live there permanently. And so, you know, my husband and I had to start asking them, okay, let's really think about this. They're going to live in your home, and are they going to pay your mortgage? Like, are they like, how is this going to work out? No one's going to notice that your mortgage isn't being paid. Nobody's going to notice that. Like, come on, let's really think through these things. Like, it just, and then once they started like really breaking it down, instead of just that total fear mongering that was just hitting them from all the news networks that they were listening to, it didn't make sense. It totally didn't make sense. And it just, I mean, we still don't quite have them on board with us, but and no one ever, took over their home in the past 2 years like they been. So, baby steps with them,
Yeah.
but yeah, you could see kind of the light bulb going off once you kind of made them actually think it through instead of just relying on fear of what they were hearing on the news. So
Yeah, great suggestions. Which kind of brings us to our homework now. So we need, for next month, we need to finish the book, and then also, I would like to I always kind of like to have a little call to action. I would like you to bring back some sort of resource that you can share with the group. Whether that be a conversation starter that you had, whether that's something that you've done out in the community, whatever that might be, whether it's an internet link that you learned more about how immigration really works, but something that you can share with everybody that we can also use that to take out into our own physical communities. I mean, it's great to be in this space today, but we also want to be really cognizant of what can we do to continue this out in our real world, out where there aren't people who may not agree with us. So bring that into share. And I just want to really say, thank you for joining us. It was kind of nice that it was a nice small group that we could all just kind of have a conversation. But I also want to thank you for just sticking on topic with the book. It is a hard read, and it's challenging, and there's a lot of negative aspects to it. But we stayed focused on the topic and didn't go off on any kind of dark moments in the bigger world picture. And I know that takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of strength on my part and everybody else's. So I want to thank you for that as well. And I'm going to turn it over to Miss Evelyn in case she has any closing words for everybody.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. I don't want to repeat what Melissa said because she said it well. So we just look forward to the next meeting, and we'll go from there. But this has been like awakening. I mean, I knew that I would come here as a learner, and I've learned so much from you guys, and I'm encouraged by that. So thank you, Melissa, for facilitating and leading and getting all
My
this
pleasure.
together for us.
My pleasure.
Absolutely.
And we'll
So,
see
and
you
I'd like to
next
say
week.
one thing too to mind well. We're in the same move on community. And that's where
Yes.
I remember I remember her saying when I posted that information in our Move On community, she said, "Oh, I could almost feel your excitement. It's like someone just gave me this book. I'll be there," something like that. You said, yeah. So thank you for showing up. I really, really, you're the name I kept looking for. I'm thinking, is she going to show up? Is she going to show up? And you're here. So thank you for being here, and for everybody. I just learned so much from you. And my dear Texas, my blood flows in the shape of Texas girl. That's home.
Could
That's home. Yeah.
could I add one more example?
Yes.
I'm still working on this list of examples, but one I have done where it's more confrontive is a person that insisted, she was my next door neighbor, that Mexicans were blank, 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 everything bad. And I said, well, that's not been my experience. And then she insisted. I mean, she was going to force this. And she kept, at another conversation, same kind of thing. And I said, well, I've worked with them and with a group that was the most welcoming I've ever worked with, happened to be in Chicago, blah, blah, blah. She wouldn't accept anything I said. And so I just kept saying, well, that's not been my experience. And she would, argue. And finally, she stopped communicating with me. And it was gentle, but she really was pretty hardcore, and not just believing, but trying to proselytize people. So anyway, I appreciate all those ideas. Thanks for everything.
Yeah. Thank
We
you for
look
sharing
forward
that.
to seeing you next week or next month. I'm sorry.
Next month. Yeah. Yeah.
Great,
Yeah.
thanks.
You guys have a great afternoon.
thank you.
Thanks,
Take care,
Melissa.
Melissa, and
Thanks.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.